Okay, my friends, another shocker du jour. This is Dragon's Breath Expedition 2019. They sent a robot, diver thing down in there, not with a person in it, but a remotely operated vehicle down inside here. Now you see that very circular hole? You see these little blue dots up here and all that sort of stuff? I believe I have the same thing in miniature here. You see these holes? I believe this is the same as that. And has all the same holes, and it actually has the same thing as this right here. If you can see, you see these blue dots? Well, I have the same thing in these, only they're red dots, and I can tell you why. So let's dig deep into this. This is just a taste of what we're going to be getting into, because there was giants on the earth, there was dragons, all of that stuff is now pretty well proven. And this is a hair follicle from a giant creature. That's the sebaceous gland. That's where the erector muscle attaches. That's the root of the hair, and that's where it comes out the top. I'll show you anatomically. And that's about it I'm going to do for today. We're going to be getting, and again, everything preserved during this great flood. And Yale has a paper about it. Exceptional preservation during this one particular time when all of this stuff was wiped off the face of the earth. Okay, I made the statement this was a hair follicle, which it is. There's what they call the erector pili muscle. That's where it attaches. That makes your hair stand up on end. This side has the sebaceous gland, which is quite apparent. That's what that is. This is obviously the hair shaft coming out. This is the bulbous form, which is quite apparent. This is the way the roots grow. They grow down and then they turn around and come straight up. That's why sometimes you get an ingrown hair. Now, that's the vein and artery right there. All right, see the blue and the red? Blue and red is normally the color of blood that's in the body. Once it gets out of the body, the red stays red, but the blue turns black. That's in mud fossils. We're going to go through this in great depth. And again, the evidence is overwhelming. I have CAT scans, I have DNA tests, I have the specimens, and there's just no question about it. All of this stuff is quite real. And again, let me just show you quickly the paper that Yale did, which indicates that the Great Flood did happen, wiped out all of the giant creatures, including the dragons, because there are dragons everywhere, my friends, everywhere. Okay, my friends, I find this a bit ironic. This is Dragon's Breath Cave, world's biggest underground lake, still holds secrets. Now, this is from the BBC. They just put it out March 1st, 2023. And it's going to be, they're going on and on about this, and they have the video here. And it's narrated by David Attenborough, which is funny because I had contacted him years ago. From this, he wrote me back from 2014, and he said, because I wrote him about the mud fossils, I said, you're the only one I've seen that's ever spoken about mud fossils. And I went on to explain to him how I discovered this and that. Well, he sent back and he said, thank you for your note. I am somewhat surprised. I have never made a video on mud fossils. Indeed, I know nothing of the subject. My interest is not in recent entombment, but fossils that are many millions of years old. Well, that's David Attenborough, and it very, very kind of him to send it back, but it's, he didn't understand. I told him, I said, my stuff is on the surface, and it's all from a great flood. And, I would like to have him investigate it. And, of course, it just never went anywhere. But this is the kind of thing that, they assume that all of the stuff that they've been told is correct, and it's just not right. So they're just starting from nowhere land. And this is when I show you what's inside this cave, it's going to blow your mind. And like I say, I'm going to, this is just a taste for today. We'll get into it very shortly. All right, so anyway, Yale has agreed that there was a worldwide flood, and it created these exceptionally preserved soft-bodied creatures from these silica-rich oceans. I agree 100%. This is, my friend, a Caesar. He's a goose. Caesar Augustus. There's his feathers right there, and he died flat in the flood, as almost all of the stuff I have did. And we actually have some new species that we'd like to have looked at, and I'm seeing if I can get some way of doing this done. You know, this stuff costs money. I don't have any money. Now, but all this stuff is pretty well validated now, and Yale agrees with it, but they don't understand it, and they don't understand how it happened, but they agree that it was a worldwide flood of silica-rich oceans. Worldwide means it was a giant flood. And it said it was a rapid, where was it, somewhere down here, rapid precipitation, silica cements, facilitated high silica saturated state of the oceans. That's what preserved all these mud fossils. They put this out in 2016. Now, I was trying to get a hold of David Attenborough in 2014 because nobody else would listen to me. And I was working with Yale, trying with Derek Briggs, just begging him to look at my stuff. He just refused. But anyway, I did all the things that they asked that would have to be done, CAT scans and DNA, all that stuff. But anyway, this just shows that there was a giant worldwide flood. Now, they claim it was 550 million years ago, and it wiped out all the stuff on Earth, basically, which is, it's true, it wiped out everything on Earth, but it wasn't then. It was only 3,500 years ago, according to Velikovsky, when we were almost hit by Venus, which was ejected from Jupiter. And that's all written in the ancient texts of every culture on Earth. We'll be getting very, very deep into that and Velikovsky's claims, what I can validate and what I can discount. And there are both things. Now, this just shows you that everything I've been saying is correct. And this paper agrees with it. And it's been a long duration of time here that this has been not really allowed to be spoken about, and now it's going to be allowed. And I'm speaking, and people are starting to listen. And once it's fully understood, it's going to be a new world, because it is a new world. It's an old world that's new. All right, so I'm saying there was dragons, I'm saying there was giants, so why don't you go home and start thinking about what I'm talking about. Now, just to show you that what I just showed you, it was literally a giant penis from a giant creature. This is what they call the linea alba. You see that line? They also call it the hunter's line because you can cut it. That's where the abdominal cavity is formed. It's a seam. When these things are all swelled up in the oceans, that seam cracks. Can I prove that? Yes, I can. Okay, this is not porn. This is a giant human body part from, it's called the Tracian womb cave. Now, I talked to you about the linea alba. This is quite obviously the shape and anatomical features of a womb. Now, what is this line right here? That's the linea alba, and it splits. Look, see, it goes right up the whole, straight up. Now, if you can't see that that's a vagina, I don't know, you better get an anatomy book. Now, what else can we see here? This was a literal coffin birth. You see this? This is the head right here. And the arm of an unborn child. And obviously, they all died in this flood, and that's exactly what was written in history everywhere on Earth. And not one single culture on Earth doesn't talk about dragons and giants and the flood. Zero. And Velikovsky did the research. It was all 3,500 years ago. We are going to go deep, and we are going to go wide, because I'm telling you, these things are all over the Earth. It seems like almost every woman had one. And men had the other one. So, this is just the way it works. And it all got petrified. Just like Yale says, exceptional preservation, I guess so. Okay, my friends, I've made it quite obvious there were giant creatures on the face of the planet. Just very obvious. And mine are very, very large. And they are DNA, CAT scan, tested, all that stuff. Now, what I'm going to point to is right here. You have Google Earth. You can come up. I want you to take a look at this structure right here, what you think this is. And this right here, I'm going to tell you right now, is a dragon, and it runs all the way across North Africa, and it's on the maps. And the dragon's scales are right down here, and his dragon scaled throat. I think they call this the Draco River, Dragon River. And these are the dragon's scales running all the way down his throat to protect him from getting sliced, and it didn't help. Zeus slew him with his great and my. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this. This is actually amazing. This is the heart that I have here. It's that those are really the blood cells that have collected in these little cavities. You see that hole there, and the hearts are just saturated with holes and blood. Look at this one. This is the dragon's cave, which is the biggest body of fresh water on Earth underground. You see these blue spots? Mine are red, but I think they might stay blue, or it might be a different type of blood in this creature. I have no idea. But usually when they get oxidated, which means out in the oxygen, they turn black. So this might be just normal. Now remember this cavity here, this cavity here, this and these little things here. Look here. It's the same thing. It's cavity, and all the same stuff. Now, it is a heart. I can almost positively guarantee you that. And if anybody from, an anatomical person wants to take a look at it, they can. And I'm going to go deep into it in a minute. Well, not in a minute, in the next video. So, stay tuned. And this is what a heart looks like. Right here. All right, this is the heart. These are the two, like the ventricles of the heart. One is the dark blood and one is the artery blood. And there's holes in here that are just undeniably perfect. Like I said, I'm going to get into this very deep, but in a heart, there is all kinds of plumbing. Those are the three major. The vein, the artery, and there's another one that's sort of mixed the two of them together. There it is right there. And there's the strap between them. You see that little tube running right there? That was some kind of a artery or vein. And inside, I'm going to have it in a microscope. We're going to look at it pretty close. All right, some people would call that a piece of coral. I call it a heart. Some people would look at that and say, oh, it's an alien face. No, it isn't. It's a heart. And coral lives in this stuff just like all kinds of living things live in dead things, and that was a dead heart. Now, there's not a whole lot of life in it because it's been saturated with waters for a bazillion years, but you see the holes in it? It's the same tubing. It's identical to what I'm showing you here. Virtually identical. Virtually identical. And they're going down through it, through these big tubes. You see them all over the place? And that's what happens inside of a heart. They got tubes running everywhere. All right, that's it. These hearts have holes all over the place. Little plumbing and tubing and chambers and heartstrings and veins and arteries and all that stuff. And that's what this is here. And this is not the only one I've seen. A friend of mine had one that actually bled red blood out of it when he cracked it open. And it was a heart. It looked like a rock, only had a red spot, and he hit it with a hammer and it popped right open. They break right along here, and you could see the red and the yellowish color, which is the mixed together, and then you have the vein. Well, I'll show it to you. You see that? This was a friend of mine, Phil Harris. Unfortunately, he passed away. But he went out, he took the 15-minute challenge. He went out and found this heart in 15 minutes. It was a rock. He smacked it because he saw the red thing, and it popped open. There's what it was. There was blood in there. Now, after about an hour or two, see the different styles of blood. The yellow is sort of a mix. This was where the vein was, and this is the artery, the red. Now, again, it turns black when it's exposed. And here's what happened after a couple of hours. You see how the red now is starting to turn real dark? But see all this plumbing in here? These are all this different plumbing that I'm talking about in this here. Same thing. Basically the same sort of stuff. All right, so stay tuned. The next one's going to be pretty deep.